Hi, my name is Yücel Tipikoy. I'm from BTG in Ankara, Turkey, and today we will have some discussions on various CMMI topics with Wayne Littlefield, SCI High Maturity Lead Appraiser. Today, let's first of all start with some information about what the CMMI is. I mean, could you tell us about the model, how it is organized, and how we can, how can we start a CMMI program?
Okay, very good. Good question. I hear that all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. First, as you know, CMMI is a de facto standard. It's used throughout the world.
Yeah.
Many companies all over the world use CMMI to improve their processes. And I'm asked that question many times, is where do we begin? And first we start with, well, you have to understand the model.
Yeah.
And the model itself is primarily used in a representation most companies use staged. Staged defines maturity levels. And I use the analogy that if you have a young child and that child starts out going to school, they wouldn't get to the 6th grade and you tell them to go to the university. So it's maturity. It's maturity.
Yeah.
So there's 5 levels of maturity in the model. So let me explain the levels.
Yeah.
Level 1.
I think this slide which we have here on the screen right now gives a little bit of insight of how the model flows from one initial, managed, defined, quantitatively managed, and optimizing level.
That's correct. That's correct. And as you can see, as we talked about maturity, it's growing, and it's each level builds on the previous level.
Yeah.
That's why there's 5. The level 2 is putting a good, fundamental, solid management, project management capability in place.
Yeah.
So the focus is primarily on project management activities and the process areas that support basic project management, as it says in the slide here, helps an organization start out process improvement. They start the journey. They start growing. The key behind process improvement is to learn from your experiences. That's why maturity was used in the model.
Wayne, could you tell us about how can I achieve level 2, the managed level in CMMI? What we see is here we have 7 process areas: requirements management, project planning, project monitoring and control, supplier agreement management, measurement and analysis, process product quality assurance, and configuration management. How can a company achieve this? How much time does it take to achieve this? How many people do they need? I mean, what is their requirements? What is their homework to achieve level 2?
Okay, very good, very good. I've worked with many companies that have asked the same question, and I've been through that journey with them.
Yeah.
The interesting way or the best way I can advise to start is to first understand the model.
Yeah.
Because, as you can see, most projects and most companies actually do these activities. That's the interesting phenomena, is that projects are usually called projects. There's project managers, there's engineers doing many of these activities. But to do process improvement correctly, the one thing is to, number 1, understand what is the model looking for. Number 2?
I have a question.
Yeah,
You
go
say
ahead.
what the model is looking for. Well, what I see is level 2, okay, we have 7 process areas. If a company applies these 7 process areas, and if they document this according to what is in the book, isn't that the model itself? Or what do you mean by they have to understand the model?
Very good, very good. Well, we'd have to go one level deeper into the model, which I can do without going into a lot of depth, but hopefully it'll help you understand a little bit more about how the model is made up. First of all, each of these process areas has inside it practices.
Yeah.
Let's take, for example, project planning.
Yeah.
Project planning has many specific practices, and the specific practices are statements of what a project should be doing or an organization should be doing. So for example, developing estimates, doing estimation is a practice. But there's another aspect to the model of practices that are called generic practices. So as you had asked, Ujel, if an organization just documents a process, that wouldn't be good enough. What's important is that the process had a policy that requires that the projects use it. That the process is actually trained to people. So having a process is not enough. It's having people understand that there's a process, having them training in knowledge and skills to execute the process. So for example, for a project planning process, people must be trained to execute the process. There should be monitored, things of that nature. So there's many support practices that support the enactment of the other practices.
Okay, but once you have a project planning process defined, and once project management applies the practices according to that process, isn't that okay? What kind of training would the lower level team need, the executors need to apply? I think this is more of management taking the role of having them applied, even if it's a project manager who is doing the planning or the monitoring or control of the system.
Right. The interesting thing behind all of this is that process improvement cannot be just performed by the projects themselves independently.
Yeah.
Typically it's a focused program where executive management gets involved in supporting a process improvement initiative.
Yeah.
So what I like to see in an organization or a company is executive managers that set business objectives, on-time delivery of projects, things like that. And the requirement then would be to develop a process that projects will be using in that organization.
Yeah.
Now another key factor here is for an organization to achieve true maturity level, all the projects within that organization have to be using that process.
Yeah.
Okay. So another interesting thing here is there is a little bit of diversity in some of the other process areas. For example, configuration management.
Yes.
Configuration management at a high level in the model states that you should have the integrity of your work products under control. You're guaranteeing that the work products are not being violated.
Yeah.
Therefore, number one, there should be a process, and the process should describe which configuration items are identified. Give you some candidates for a typical project. Candidate work products could be the project plan under version control. In a coding project, the code itself. The test cases.
Yeah.
Use cases, requirements documents, all of those are candidates for configuration management.
Yes.
So having a configuration management process would be required. Having people understand that they have to follow that process, like when they start a project, they plan which work products will be under control, which tools will be used. There's a whole host of document management tools, code tools for managing the configuration of work products.
Yeah.
So that's just one example.